Welcome to the Eat for Endurance podcast, where we explore the connection between nutrition, performance, and health for busy, active people. I'm Claire Shorenstein, a sports dietitian and endurance athlete, and in every episode, I share evidence-based guidance, inspiring athlete stories, and practical tips on a wide variety of nutrition topics so that you can feel better, crush your endurance goals, and thrive as a human being. Today, I'm chatting with professional mountain and trail runner Grayson Murphy. Grayson is a two-time world mountain running champion, the founder of Wild Strides Paper Co., and at the time of our recording, she's just days away from becoming a first-time mom. We cover so much in this episode. It's hard to sum it up, but I'll give it a try. We go through her struggles with an eating disorder in high school, her transition from soccer to running and going pro thereafter, all from a nutrition lens, of course, how she was able to fuel herself and compete for years despite ongoing GI issues that finally culminated in a Crohn's diagnosis recently, how she overcomes her performance anxiety to show up to starting lines with confidence, her move from sub-ultras to 50Ks, and her plan to chase an OTQ once she has her baby, her surprise pregnancy just days before the 2025 World Championships, using various tools including medication to help with anxiety and depression, and we cover so much more. Grayson is someone who truly walks the walk when it comes to fueling, advocating for your health, and showing up for your sport even when life gets complicated. There's really so much to take away from this conversation, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. Before we dive in, if this show has helped your fueling or an athlete's story like this one has entertained or inspired you, I would love your support. You can leave a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen or watch. You can share an episode with a friend or on social media. You can support me on Patreon, and you can support the sponsors of this episode. You can also find my fueling stickers and affiliate links for some of my favorite products on the shop page at eatforendurance.com. All links are in the show notes. It really means so much, all your support, so thank you. All right, here is my chat with Grayson Murphy. Hey, Grayson, welcome to the Eat for Endurance podcast. How are you doing today?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm doing good.
Yeah, and you are 37 weeks pregnant, which is so amazing. Congrats. How are you feeling?
Not bad. Yeah, pretty ready to not be pregnant, but yeah, just any day now. Yeah.
Totally. Well, let's just get right into it. I like to start these interviews by digging into your nutrition roots, as I call them. What were mealtimes like growing up, and like any kind of strong food memories or family food culture, anything you want to share about that?
Yeah, I guess we had a strong family food culture. My mom has a background in cooking in restaurants and kind of being a chef, so we got super spoiled with everything that she would make for us. And we ate dinner every night together. That was pretty important. We packed lunches too, which was nice instead of school lunch. And that was always really tasty. And I felt like it was always much better than the school lunches that we had. And then we have a lot of like food traditions too around the holidays, which has been really fun. So yeah, I think food for us is like a way of showing love to each other and like enjoying company and like family, and Sunday dinners are still really big for us, so that's been fun too.
Yeah. Do you have family nearby? I know you're in Montana, but I don't know where your rest of your family is.
My family's all in Utah, but Logan's family is here in Montana, and we do Sunday dinner with his mom too. So yeah.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, awesome. And you didn't start out running. You started in soccer, and that was kind of your main sport. You didn't switch until college. I was reading up on that. And I was also reading something you wrote about how, you thought it was being a soccer player. You were saying how it was being a soccer player, as well as having a strong support system. That's kind of what helped you build a healthier relationship with food and body. Like if it weren't for the fact that you started out in soccer and had kind of a different culture compared to a lot of running culture. Not every team has kind of that negative stuff going on. But I was just kind of wondering if you can share a little bit about kind of soccer from that nutrition lens and your kind of experience with nutrition in high school and all that.
Yeah, I don't know if it was soccer. I had an eating disorder in high school, so I think like that, and that kind of came from like a place of control and less of body image for me. But I was playing soccer at the time, and my mom really like presented me with this ultimatum of, you need to fuel yourself or you're not allowed to continue sports and exercising. And then I also had some coaches in high school who were like, you're really good at soccer, but not if you're not going to be able to play in college if you can't fuel yourself properly and like have a strong body. And that was really like, I guess, what I needed to hear and really resonated with me. Because my ambition for being good at soccer and wanting to play in college outweighed the control, I guess. And it was like a nice carrot to have or motivation to get healthier. So that was nice. And then going into college soccer, yeah, they definitely don't reward being like small or skinny.
Yeah.
So I even had a couple schools say they're really interested in me, but they wanted me to redshirt my freshman year to gain weight. And I
Wow.
wasn't, that was kind of a weird take too. Like, I don't know if I agree with that all the way either. So yeah, it was just another contrast, I guess, in culture to running. And I'm glad I had that experience prior to joining the running community because it kind of showed me like, oh, these sports have like just different cultures around eating. And I wasn't inundated with like lighter is faster. I saw, oh, like stronger in this scenario is actually better. So yeah, it was nice to have like two perspectives.
Yeah. How did that translate? Like once you left soccer and started with running, what was that shift like for you, having been through that whole experience of recovering from an eating disorder and being told you need to gain weight, but now suddenly you're in a very different sport with very different culture and views of food and nutrition. Of course, depends on the coach and the team and environment and all of that. But I'm kind of curious what your experience was.
I'm lucky that the team that I joined at Santa Clara and the coaches and everyone was really wonderful and grounded and healthy. And so there was never a pressure to like lose weight or look a certain way. I actually found like it was easier. And when I was playing soccer, everyone always used to say, "Oh, you look like a runner." Like they never said I looked like a soccer player. So then when I got to running, I was like, "Oh, I already look the part." So no one's like trying to change anything about me now. And I'm not like trying to gain weight or force feeding too, just to like put on extra pounds, which was pretty nice actually. I could just like let my body do its thing. But I did see like a big shift in the way my body looked just from like specializing in one sport to specializing in another, even in the way that we were like lifting weights. There's like a difference too. And I was doing like cross country and then like 5K. So it became like more long distance stuff and less like power oriented. And
Mhm.
so yeah, there was a body change and that was like interesting. And I had some people be like, "You have an eating disorder again." And I'm like, "No, this time it's just a different sport." And I'm like, "I don't know, your body specializes for that," which is kind of cool that your body does that.
Yeah. It's hard the whole like, oh, you look like this or you look like that. Like that's always really difficult language. And I know for the clients I work with, when I'm working with runners, it's like maybe they don't feel like they look like a runner. So they want to be thinner, to quote look like runner and the whole like faster, lighter thing. But obviously there are some body types that are just like genetically you're predisposed to be this way. If you are eating really well, you're supporting yourself, you happen to be a bit leaner and this is just like what you're really good at. I mean, obviously that is a different thing. um, and I imagine too that, nutrition when you're playing soccer competitively and then you switch to running, that's a really different way of fueling yourself because of course they're such different sports. So I'm curious to hear a bit about that.
Yeah, I don't know. Unfortunately, like in college soccer, we didn't have a nutritionist at the school that I was at. So there was no like guidance on what we should be doing. And they just wanted me to gain weight. So I was just trying to eat as much as
Yeah.
possible. And it only kind of worked. But yeah, and then with running, I think I started to learn more about nutrition and like macros and just more of the nitty gritty of it all and not just like eat a lot of food. So that was pretty helpful too. And then it has evolved over the years. Like I think we're in such like a high carb fueling era now, which is cool. And that's not always the message I have gotten in the last 10 years of running. So that's kind of a fun evolution.
Yeah, and it's not even the message that a lot of people are getting now. It's like it depends on which echo chamber you're in, right? So there's still a lot of people who are getting the like, oh, you must eat like crazy amounts of protein and carbs are bad. And, there's still thankfully the messaging is changing, but it also depends on like what circles you're in. But yes, for sure. So I know that you have a really long history of GI struggles and other symptoms, mystery symptoms, we can call them, because you were struggling for so long. I mean, the symptoms weren't mysteries, but you didn't know the cause necessarily. When did this all start? Like, was this in college that this was beginning? Or at what point did you really start to notice that something was really off?
Once I got diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and then I was looking back and kind of talking to my mom about it too, she was like, that makes a lot of sense. Like some of the tummy problems you had when you were little too, and like in high school, but it never was bad enough to do anything about it really. And it was just like, oh, just kind of get over it. But I think, in college, it kind of started to get worse. And then when I started running, it was a really unfortunate coincidence that it got worse when I started running, because then I just got told a bunch, oh, it's just runner's trots, or this is just what happens when you run. And I was new to running, so of course I was like, oh, I guess this is just part of like the sport. I had no idea. But I was like having accidents like frequently on runs, and the people, I was like, well, my teammates aren't pooping their pants on runs, so how is this like a running issue? And this is so strange, but I just kind of learned to deal with it, and cutting out gluten and dairy for a while didn't eliminate symptoms, but it did help a little bit. So I was gluten-free for probably 7 years, and if I could kind of like pick and choose what I was eating and just like be a little more selective, and then I always had to like know where a bathroom was on a run, and I just could kind of manage it. And then it just got a lot worse in the last 2 years. I think it must have been just like a pushing too far, and it like kind of pushed me over the edge.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously there are like lots of things going on, like college, and then you went to pro, and you're, like things are a little different, but like, so there are a lot of different situations I'm asking about, I guess. But just first, more broadly, like, how did you handle like training and fueling yourself during this time? Because, like I was reading, and I think it was one of your blogs, like you said, like you're eating like 4,000 calories and you're losing all this weight. And it was like, just like you couldn't keep weight on. You, I'm sure, had like nutritional deficiencies. You developed REDs. And this was more in that like extreme symptom periods leading up to the Crohn's diagnosis. But even before then, I mean, you were winning races. You were like doing all these things, quote unquote, successfully, right? But like managing this crazy mystery illness that wasn't yet diagnosed. I'm kind of curious, like, what did that look like for you? How did you navigate all that?
Really, it was just like eating a lot. Like I felt like I had to eat 3x to absorb 1x. And it was to the point where kind of by the end, when it got to be the worst, I was eating more than my husband, and he's a 6'3" Nordic skier, and he was training like 20 hours a week, and I was like still out eating him sometimes at meals. And it was just kind of like, okay, well, this is crazy, but I know if I can just eat a lot, it helps. But training kind of plateaued, and that's, you can only do that for so long, I suppose. Somehow I didn't have like crazy deficiencies, but I think it's because I was eating so much just to try and get what I needed from all of it. Yeah, and I always had coaches being like, try eating more, and I'm like, I cannot. Like, I feel like I'm so tapped out of eating right now. Like, it's become a full-time job. Yeah, so that was kind of, I'm really happy now I get to eat less, which sounds bad, but in a good way. Like, it's nice to be able to absorb what I am consuming.
One thing that comes up constantly on this podcast, whether we're talking about performance, recovery, or just making everyday nutrition work in real life, is how much easier it is to fuel well when you actually have good food on hand ready to go. That's why I'm so excited to partner with Good Ranchers, a delivery service for high-quality chicken, beef, pork, and fish, all sourced from American farms and ranches. Having quality proteins stocked in the freezer has been a game changer during busy training weeks and hectic family life for me. Everything arrives vacuum sealed and pre-portioned, so it's easy to to pull out exactly what you need, whether you're cooking for yourself after a long training session, having friends over, or feeding the whole family. I love having a variety of proteins on hand so meals never feel repetitive, and I was honestly so excited when my first box arrived that it finally pushed me to get that second freezer I'd been wanting for years. You can choose a curated box, which is what I did, or you can build your own with exactly what your household needs. Use code IRON, IRON, and you'll get $40 off your first one-time order, or if you choose a subscription, that code will get you $100 off across your first 3 orders. And as a bonus, whichever one you choose, you'll get a free protein of your choice with every order. I tried the chicken nuggets, which are made with actual chunks of chicken breast. They were so good, and I am not normally a chicken nugget person, and they were a total lifesaver on more than one occasion when I needed a quick option for lunch. One last thing, and this is important, after checkout, there's a short survey. Please write in Eat for Endurance when Good Ranchers asks how you heard about them. That's how you help support the show. All right, head to goodranchers.com, use code IRON, and let me know what you try. Let's get back to the episode. Yeah, I'm always reminding people that just because you eat something doesn't mean your body's actually using it. So it really does, a lot of athletes and other people have gut issues, gut health problems, they're malabsorbing, whatever's happening. If you're having loose stools all the time, multiple times in a day, that's problematic. That's not, it might be common, but it's not normal, right? So that's not, that means you might be, malabsorbing certain nutrients that you really need. I imagine, like you were saying, it's really hard to eat a lot. 4,000 that's a lot of food. And a lot of times what people come up against, and this is even when you don't have malabsorption, where maybe you just have really high needs because you have a lot of training volume and your needs are very elevated, appetite is hard. At a certain point, you're just I am going to vomit if I eat more. I feel so sick. And I'm curious kind of how, what were your strategies? Were you doing lots of liquid nutrition? How are you kind of overcoming some of that?
Yeah, I guess lots of liquid, eating when I wasn't hungry just because I knew I needed to. Just high density stuff. So I wasn't eating a bunch of salad, and not a ton of fiber either, just because I knew oh, that's gonna make the problem worse too. If I'm really overdoing the fiber, I'm gonna end up in the bathroom tomorrow more than I want to. So yeah, doing that, fueling on runs a lot too. I got a lot better at that towards diagnosis, kind of because I had to also, but even on easy runs, fueling, it didn't matter what the intensity was. I had a gel or multiple gels and was always out there with food.
And you were able to tolerate that? You didn't have to you weren't having accidents or running to the bathroom?
No, I still was. Yeah, I was going to the bathroom and having accidents.
Yeah. What did that look like in the races that you were winning? Because, when you're winning something, you're not stopping to use the bathroom.
No, luckily the races up until this last year, I was doing sub-ultra, so they were 90 minutes or less, and for the most part, I could get through that without having to go to the bathroom.
Oh, good. What about the lead up to the race? Because that's the other thing, because I was also reading about or hearing what you talk about, performance anxiety, which is something that so many people struggle with, and anxiety generally. And of course, anxiety worsens GI symptoms and people are really nervous for a race. And so they often say I'm trying to get someone to eat and they're oh my God, Claire, I can't eat. I'm I feel sick. I'm nervous. I'm curious how you dealt with this, since they're just there's the anxiety piece, but then there's the gut piece. How did you handle it?
Yeah, they're so interlinked. And it's funny too, because I feel so many times leading up to the diagnosis, I got, oh, you're just anxious. That's why you're having these problems. But yeah, I think eating breakfast before race day was always really hard for me with the pre-race nerves. And then I always, without fail, 4 or 5 times in the bathroom before a race, with the food plus anxiety combo. So yeah, there's a lot of bathroom trips before every start line. And I think that it is hard to eat before. So usually I would try and get a big dinner in, because that seemed to last longer. So then if I couldn't eat the morning of as much as I wanted to, at least I had dinner in me. And then again, the races were only 90 minutes or less, so I could usually kind of squeak through them without needing food.
Yeah. Yeah. And I imagine you weren't really doing too much of like a carb load or anything like that since it's a shorter event.
Yeah, no, not really. It was pretty like normal eating leading up to the
Yeah.
race.
What are your kind of go-tos when you are nervous and you need to get something in? Like, what are you reaching for?
Oats is usually a pretty safe bet as long as they're not, they need to be the quick oats because the old fashioned, that's too much fiber if they're the like thick ones. Sometimes bananas as long as they're not too soft. Peanut butter if I'm in a country that has peanut butter. Sometimes I'll just bring bars too. And then I really liked the Spring Energy. I have like an oat mix smoothie thing. It's like a big
Oh, yeah, the
packet.
packet. Hmm.
Yeah. And I can usually like get that down, force that down, and that's at least a couple hundred calories with some fats and some protein and carbs. So that's like a also last resort.
Yeah. What are you doing during like training runs and races? What are you usually reaching for in terms of like gels or drinks or anything like that?
I'm still kind of exploring what I like and what works. I've only done 3 races now where I've needed fuel like in the race.
Hmm.
And I think I did a mix of stuff. I learned to have a really low salt concentration in my sweat. So it's really easy for me to overdo the sodium intake. And that was causing some like nausea and throwing up and stuff. So now I have to make sure I'm like dialing that back because I didn't realize how easy it was to get in like that much salt and I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
actually need it. Yeah.
Well, it depends on which product you're reaching for, because as I'm sure you know, like some have 0 milligrams and some have
Yeah.
1,000 or something.
Yeah.
So
They're not all created
be careful.
equal.
You're not, if you're really careful what you're reaching for. What have are there certain products that you've been kind of enjoying so far, or are you still like just really searching? You haven't really found anything that worked yet.
Yeah, I guess I'm searching. I mean, I like the taste of more plain stuff like Morton.
Yeah.
I haven't had the chance to try the Never Second unflavored, but I
Hmm.
think I'd like that. What else have I tried? I was honestly trying like a whole bunch of just see what like sticks last year, and then I got pregnant. I haven't had a gel in a
Yeah.
while.
Well, because you were doing 50Ks, right? Or close to
Yeah,
50Ks. So you were kind of getting into the longer
okay.
stuff for a little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of curious to hear. I want to revisit Crohn's. We'll go back there eventually, but we're going to follow. I've been pulling this thread for a while. Yeah, so 50K. Well, actually, no. Before we go to 50K, for your sub ultras, you are fueling during those, right? Like, do you have like a handheld or like what are you doing for that
I've
nutritional?
only maybe twice fueled in a sub ultra.
Oh,
Um, if it's under
same thing,
70,
liquid.
well, maybe water. If it's under 70 minutes, I probably wouldn't bring anything, maybe some water. If it's getting closer to the 90-minute mark, might have one soft flask with some electrolytes and carbs in it. Yeah, maybe getting to like the 2-hour mark, starting to think about like carbs in drink mix and in gels as well.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it kind of was able to get through. A lot of the like mountain races are so short, you can just do them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But not 50K. 50K is a different.
Oh, yeah.
So talk to me. I know you only kind of just started the whole ultra piece of
Mhm.
things before you got pregnant, but I'm curious to kind of hear what your experience has been so far, especially from like that, again, that fueling standpoint, because you can't just, have a couple sips of water and call it a day. Like you got to have a
No,
plan. So tell me
definitely not.
what you've been playing around with, how that's been going.
Yeah, I think so. My first 50K was Broken Arrow last year, and that was about 4 hours, I think. So going into that one, I think my carb goal was like 80 to 90 grams of carbs an hour, and then I didn't know my salt rate at that point, so it was a lot higher than it needed to be.
Mhm.
And then liquid was like, I think I maybe said 500 milliliters an hour, but I don't know that I was able to get that down. And that was like my first time, like kind of having a nutrition plan for a race,
Mm.
and trying it out. And yeah, it kind of went pretty bad the first by the top of the first lap, I was starting to have, like, some crampy feeling already. I was like,
Mm.
"Oh, no, this is not good because we have, like, more than half the race left.
Stomach cramps or muscle cramps?
Muscle cramps. Yeah, and then going into the second lap, started to feel like some nausea with the cramping. So got through the race, but was throwing up the last couple of miles, just like puke and rally and keep going, and was like managed to stave off the cramps, but they were like knocking at the door. I could feel them.
So basically, welcome to Ultra.
Yeah, pretty much.
First
Yeah.
Ultra. Good.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
So I finished that and I was like, that was cool, but I have like some things to work on, obviously, and did not knock the fueling out of the park the first go around. So I definitely need to like troubleshoot this. And that was also, I think I was only 10 weeks into Crohn's treatment at that point. So it started working, but not to the full effect that it is now. And I was still like kind of recovering from the Reds hole that I had been in prior to that. Yeah, it was just like a lot of variables. So then for Speed Goat, I partnered with H Drop to get the sweatband thing. And that was really helpful. And then I learned like, okay, I really overdid it on the salt. I think I underdid it on water intake. I think the carbs were probably fine.
Vomiting.
Yeah. And so I adjusted, and then Speed Goat went a lot better, and was also able to just like troubleshoot in the race too. Like, oh, I feel like I need more water right now, or I feel like I need more XYZ, and just kind of like feel it out also, because I was so unfamiliar with like what the feelings mean when they start happening. So that was really nice. Got through Speed Goat. Felt way better after too, like in the days of recovery post race compared to Broken Arrow, which made me feel like, okay, fueling went a lot better this time. Yeah, so it was a big learning curve for me, I guess, and I think I will still continue to keep learning, like what works, what doesn't. But yeah, it's been kind of fun to like add that piece of challenge to training on top of the running part.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like your lower GI held up, or at least you haven't mentioned lower GI symptoms. So I guess the biologic treatment, has, even though it was early days, it was working well enough for you not to be like pooping in the woods somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't remember. I didn't at Broken Arrow. I might have once at Speed Goat. But yeah, I think that was like a big win. Yeah.
You will. You'll figure it out. I want to go back to kind of the build up or the lead up to the Crohn's diagnosis, because I know one thing I talk about a lot with my clients is kind of figuring out how to advocate for yourself when you are, working with different providers. And, sometimes we have amazing providers who are so supportive and who get athletes and aren't like questioning every single thing. And other times we, we feel like we're not being heard, or we're rushed, or they tell you your ferritin of 18 is normal, or whatever is going on. So, and I know that you really went through it, like in just trying to figure out what was wrong, right? And that is a whole thing, and you've written tons about it. And I encourage everyone to go read your Substack and blog and all the things. But yeah, I was just curious, maybe you can speak to that a little bit about figuring out how to advocate for yourself, navigating kind of just being told over and over again that things weren't wrong when they were wrong, and then like that journey up until getting that diagnosis. Maybe you can just walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah. I think it was really difficult, and my heart goes out to anyone that's going through that. When I transferred schools to the University of Utah to run there and finish out my eligibility, I remember telling the coach, I'm really good at listening to my body, and I feel like that's a strength of mine as an athlete. And I really believed that, and I felt like that got me really far in running. And then when some of this stuff started to happen, it turned my world upside down, because this thing I thought I was so good at, listening to my body, I had a lot of professionals and doctors who I thought I was supposed to trust telling me like, no, you're wrong, or that's not what you're feeling. It's all in your head. It's anxiety. Nothing's actually wrong with you. And it started to wear me down. I think I was really gung-ho in like the first 6 to 9 months of like feeling really bad. Like, no, like I feel this way and something's wrong. Listen to me. But I got really worn down. And by like month 9 was like, maybe I'm just crazy. Like, maybe I'm living in an alternate reality, or maybe it is anxiety. Maybe I'm just like not tough anymore. Like, this is how I've always felt. And I just like can't handle running anymore for some reason. And really started to kind of internalize those thoughts and like second guess everything. And yeah, it was a really hard low point to be at. And I did find I found a lot of doctors that who were not familiar with like even RED-S. Like I would bring that up and they'd be like, what is that? And I'm like, I should not be here explaining to you what that is. You're the medical professional, and that tells me like you don't know enough about what I'm doing to be able to be helpful in this situation. So I guess that was a helpful lesson too, to learn like not all providers are created equal, and they might be great people, but they might just not have the tools or knowledge that you need to help solve your problem. So keep looking if you feel like they just don't get it. And then found Dr. Teddy. He's with High Point Direct Care, and he's a runner. He set the course record at Ure 100 last year. So he like gets it. And he's a really great doctor. And yeah, connecting with him was amazing. And he was like, no, like something's wrong. I believe you. And just hearing that like someone believed me was so helpful. And he would advocate for me. And so fast forward, things got worse, symptoms got worse to the point where I got scheduled for a semi-emergent, a very quick endoscopy and colonoscopy. And yeah, things like I woke up from that procedure and the doctor's like, I'm 99% sure you have Crohn's, but we sent biopsies in anyway. But just so you know, like it was pretty obvious. And I was like, like all of this. And then like in the matter of minutes, you were able to diagnose this. And yeah, it was pretty crazy, like how drawn out it was. And then everyone's like, oh, actually, like there's a reason you've been feeling so bad. And here you go. And that was a really validating day. I wanted to I had just not eaten for a day, but wanted to have a glass of champagne. Yeah. Like to celebrate. It sounds weird to celebrate like getting diagnosed with a chronic incurable disease, or hasn't found a cure yet. But I did, just because I was like, no, see, this whole time I was right. And like, I'm not crazy. And I knew something was wrong. And now I feel validated, and you've shown me that it is. But yeah, it took like being really stubborn for a really long time to get there.
Had you gotten a colonoscopy before?
Nope, that was the first one.
That's insane to me, that with all your issues, that was never recommended. I know you're really young, and I know that's not like a standard thing, but like just to put it into perspective, I think I was like 40. I think it was 40 or 41 or something. And I have polyps in my family history, but I was just like, I'm having some GI issues. Celiac runs in my family. I want to get tested. And I just pushed for it. And I was able to get a colonoscopy and an endoscopy and get biopsied. Like, I think that's just insane that nobody was like, you should go get a colonoscopy and check out what's happening. Like, that's crazy to me.
Took a pretty bad stool test result with like calprotectin levels being like in the cancer zone, and then being like,
when was that? Like before your colonoscopy, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They were like, that's not good. And then nothing happened really. And then blood started happening in stools. And then they're like, okay, maybe we should look inside. And yeah, so it took like that. But the worst part is my grandma died of colon cancer at 38. And yeah, like I've never met her because she died before I was born. And that's like so young to be dying of colon cancer.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, like we tried to get it approved through insurance before I ended up getting it with the blood. And they said no, because it was it wasn't my mom. It was my grandma. It was like one removed.
Oh, God. Yeah, I guess in my case, it was both my parents had polyps. And I mean, I'm glad I did it. They found a 9 millimeter precancerous polyp. and
Oh
they
my
removed it.
gosh.
I'm like,
Yeah,
sweet. You know, like, thank God for screening. That's
yeah.
great. Did you do a stool test before either, or was that the first time you did a stool test?
That was that was the first time the stool test had included calprotectin.
That would have been like, I would have thought that would be like the first thing you do. Like, that's bonkers to me.
Yeah,
Like, I'm not
they're like,
doctor.
"Oh, you don't have a
I read,
parasite, you don't have,
yeah.
like,
Ugh.
bacteria, so you're fine."
I'm so sorry you went through that. That's really rough. I mean, ugh, I'm glad you finally got there eventually, but that was a lot of
You did.
unnecessary suffering for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, my goodness. Okay, when you started taking the biologic treatment, did you notice kind of improvements right away, or how long did that kind of take for you to feel better?
Probably about 8 weeks before I started to notice a difference, and maybe 10 weeks before I felt like I was on, like, solid footing, and it wasn't like, "Oh, is it better or is it not better?" kinda thing.
Mm, yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
If you've been listening for a while, you've probably heard me mention Tailwind Nutrition on the podcast, and I am so excited to announce that they're now an official sponsor of this show. I've been using Tailwind since 2019, back when I was part of their original Trailblazers ambassador team, so this partnership has been years in the making. And one of the things I've always appreciated about them, both as an athlete myself and as a dietitian, is how simple they make sports nutrition. No GI drama mid-run, great taste, and genuinely easy to use no matter what activity you're doing. I've mixed their endurance fuel into water bottles before, more long runs than I can count. My personal favorite is the naked flavor, but they have tons of other fun flavors if that's more your speed. It covers carbs, fluid, and electrolyte in one bottle, and I genuinely never get sick of the taste. I'm also a huge fan of their recovery mix because it has 20 grams of protein plus carbs and electrolytes, and it's become my go-to when I finish a trail run and need something quick. I can mix with water right there at the trailhead. No stevia or monk fruit, which I personally do not like, just real sugar to help replenish glycogen fast so you can keep feeling good the rest of the day. As an RD, I appreciate that it's designed around actual recovery physiology and not just around marketing. And lastly, rapid hydration is my go-to for shorter sessions in everyday life, travel days, hot afternoons at the beach with my family, or anytime I want electrolytes without the extra carbs. It's light, it's refreshing, no fuss. If you're looking to make your feeling less complicated, head to tailwindnutrition.com/eat4endurance or use code EAT4Endurance20 for 20% off your first purchase. All right, let's get back to the episode. And what's so crazy is that, so here you've been struggling with all this stuff. And again, you've had race wins, you've had all this great stuff happen, but it's been a whole struggle. Then the 2 years leading up sounds like pretty hellish for you. You finally figure it out. You get treated. You're making this whole plan. You're doing your 50Ks. And then, boom, you find out you're pregnant right before doing world trips. So walk us through that whole situation, because it sounds like it was a surprise. It wasn't like something you were necessarily like part of your life plan.
No.
And you're just trying to feel better. So that must have been quite interesting for you. But yeah, tell us a little bit about all that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a big surprise. It was definitely not something I would have intentionally done, trying to get pregnant at that time or right before my biggest race of the season. So, yeah, I think weirdly, like, when I found out, well, I thought I'd been feeling bad in training for a couple weeks, and from the reds, before, my period still had not really become super regular, and I had had an IUD before the Crohn's thing, and I had gotten it taken out before I found out what was wrong, because I kept getting asked, "Well, when was your last period? Do you get a normal period?" And I'd be like, "I don't know, like, I have an IUD, so how am I supposed to know that?" So got it out, kinda wasn't, so then I could finally say, like, "I don't think I'm really getting a period, so I think I am underfueled," which was helpful. So it's still kinda, like, regulating itself, and it'd been a few weeks, so I was like, "Well, that's kinda been normal for me," like, it's still kind of, like, normalizing itself, and was feeling bad in training. My coach was like, "I don't think we overtrained," like, we were really, like, trying to be cognizant of building up slowly through the summer with the Crohn's and making sure, but I started to feel like maybe I was having a flare again, just in, like, the way the energy depletion felt with Crohn's was pretty similar to the first couple weeks of pregnancy. And I was disappointed because I was like, oh, I thought I took care of this problem and it's like coming back. So fast forward, ended up taking a pregnancy test just to cross it off the list, and surprise, it came back positive. And a part of me was like, oh, I actually feel really like proud that my body was like healthy enough to do
Yeah,
this. And like
totally.
in a fueled enough spot to be able to have this happen. And then on the flip side of that, I was like, okay, you have 4 days to figure out what to do before you leave for Spain for World Champs. So,
Yeah.
yay, but so it was, yeah, quite a whirlwind and a shock, and ended up racing at Worlds. Only made it 4 hours because I was throwing up, which this time I'm pretty sure was the morning. It's all day sickness.
Yeah.
But yeah, such a misnomer.
Oh, I
Um,
know. I have
so
like memories of just like I was in New York City when I was pregnant both times, and I just was like barfing in random like city garbage cans or something. It was so gross. People were like looking at me like, "Ew, what's wrong with you?" I wasn't showing. It's
yeah, ugh, it's the worst. So yeah, I ended up at 4 hours. Was like, I can't keep anything down. I feel pretty bad. I'm starting to cramp now. Just like, this is not worth it. So I had to DNF. But yeah, it was pretty crazy.
yeah. And so now that like, okay, so you got home, you're kind of processing what's happening, getting over the first trimester, which is brutal for many people. Sometimes the second trimester too, but usually just first. Yeah, talk to me a little bit about how pregnancy has changed your thinking around nutrition, or just maybe just strategies or the practical aspects of it. Like, have there been any major shifts for you? Cravings, aversions, anything that surprised you? Anything you're doing differently?
I think I was really disappointed to have a coffee aversion for the
Oh,
first
bummer.
few weeks. Yeah, that was sad. It's fine now, but I've had to be a matcha girl for a couple weeks there. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I had a couple people say like, "Are you eating so much?" And I think it's a funny question because I eat a lot less now than when I'm training, because
Yeah.
I'm not really haven't been able to run a ton during pregnancy. My pelvis is not super into being pregnant and running at the same time.
Yeah.
So my training load and just like overall energy expenditure throughout the day is so much lower than when I'm training. So I actually eat a lot less in general when I'm have been pregnant than training full time. And then having Crohn's and knowing what it's like to eat 4,000 calories a day. I'm like, I eat like a bird, but I'm probably eating like more like a normal person would. That's been kind of a funny surprise. But I drink a lot more water now, which is probably good. Just like realized really early on that you need so much liquid to fuel all
Mhm.
the blood volume and all the liquids that you're creating inside of your body to build this baby and keep it alive. So I'm really hoping that carries over into training more. I probably eat more protein now than carbs. It shifted a little just because I'm not running, so I don't need as many like carbs as I used to. So the ratio, I guess, is a little bit different. And then other than that, nothing's like pretty much eat the same. I can eat bigger breakfasts now just because I'm not going on a run right away. So that's been kind of nice.
Mhm.
Instead of like two half breakfasts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, one before and one after. I can eat like one big one. um,
Yeah.
that's kind of it.
Any kind of micronutrient struggles, like, iron deficiency is very common in pregnancy or other things. Has it been, I mean, I just imagine with Crohn's, since, it's nutrient deficiencies are very common in IBD and just malabsorption, all that, like, or any flares or GI stuff, like, has anything gotten worse, or have there been struggles there, or has it been pretty good?
Luckily, no flares, and I feel pretty lucky because I get the infusions every 8 weeks, and they draw blood every time to look at everything, and then I also get blood drawn at the OB appointments. So right now I'm getting lots of like
Oh, wow.
data, which is really nice. So I've been able to keep a close eye on it. No flares, but I did have, well, I would consider it low iron for me. It was 27 was my ferritin, which is
Oh yeah, that's low.
the second lowest I've ever seen mine in like 10 years. And I've been like I have like a long record of ferritin blood draw. So it was interesting though, because the OB was like, oh, that's fine. That's not low. And I was like, no, that's low for me. Like,
Yeah.
even in pregnancy, that is low for me. So like, and my prenatal already had iron in it. So I added another iron to that, which I need to get tested again, but hoping that went up. That's kind of been the only one I've seen that looked totally out of line. Didn't realize this isn't really kind of nutrition related, but your cholesterol raises at the end of pregnancy, and that's pretty normal. But seeing that, I was like, whoa, why is it so high? And then they were like, well, you need this fat for the baby. And like, yeah. So it's been cool to see like the physiology changes and that your blood work ranges for pregnancy look different than the optimal ranges for a non-pregnant person.
Mm-hmm. Before we keep going, I want to speak to something I know a lot of you are dealing with. If you're training consistently and trying to stay on top of your nutrition, but it still feels really hard or confusing, you're not alone. Many of the athletes I work with are motivated and doing their best while juggling a lot. These athletes don't need more nutrition rules or more discipline. They need guidance that's realistic, flexible, and supportive. That's why I created Eat for Endurance. On my website, you'll find free nutrition downloads, tons of detailed blogs, low-cost mini guides and masterclasses, and my monthly membership, Fuel for Life Crew. For just $39 a month, you can ask me your questions in our private Slack community, drop into my monthly live office hours to essentially get a mini one-to-one session, and connect with other busy, active people navigating similar challenges. And if you're looking for a much more individualized and a higher level of support, I also offer 3- and 6-month one-to-one nutrition coaching programs with limited spots available. You can explore everything over at eatforendurance.com. All right, let's get back to the episode. Yeah. And I mean, a few things to point out. It's like you were like, when we were talking about advocating for yourself, it's also like being familiar with like what is normal for you and what feels good for you. And if someone's like, oh, you know, and as you did, speaking up, be like, nope, this isn't good enough for me. So I think that's important. And even going back to like you were saying, talk about REDS and physicians and stuff. Like I love my PCP. She just isn't athlete informed, and she had never heard of REDS before. And I think not everyone knows about it. It's definitely more known now, but it's still not as much thing. So I was educating her, but she was like really like, oh wow, that's so interesting. I'll have to read up on that, you know. And she was like really open to it. So you know, I think it's also like what type of provider that is. Is it someone who's willing to learn and listen and understand that, you know, like as a provider myself, like I am always quick to say when I don't know something, and that's fine, you know? So as long as you're willing to learn. So you mentioned you're not running very much. Are you doing other things to stay active, or what does that look like for you?
Yeah. So I was biking. Now the bump is kind of in the way, so I can't bend over as much. Yeah. Elliptical's been fine. I've been lifting quite a bit. Bar class, lots of yoga classes, and then lots of hiking and uphill treadmill. And I can do some walk jogs, but I'm kind of down to like once a week now. The pelvis just
I remember that feeling.
The pounding.
Like you're gonna fall out. It's just that
horrible. Yeah, it's just not into it. But that's kind of why I've embraced the hiking, because I can hike. I did 2 hours yesterday and it feels fine. So that's like if I can be outside for 2 hours, I'd rather take that and be moving, even if it's slower, than a 15-minute walk jog. And then I spend the rest of the day like kind of in pain and just like wobbling around. Yeah. So I've kind of opted for slower, but longer instead.
Were you initially disappointed that you weren't going to be that person who was like running until the day I deliver my baby? Like, you know, like you, all those images and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to be that runner with the bump and on the trails. And like, then I'm going to go right to the hospital and my baby's going to pop out, you know?
Yeah. So I had many tears shed over that. Yeah. And yeah, I was like, isn't that how it's supposed to be? And
yeah, right.
I'm a professional runner. Shouldn't I be able to run? And shouldn't my experience running, like, I should be able to run more than a normal person, because that's normally what happens. But pregnancy just humbles you and puts everyone on an equal playing field. And it doesn't really matter if you ran for your job beforehand. it might look different. And it's not for lack of trying. I've been working with a PT, a pelvic floor PT, for 6 out of the 9 months of this pregnancy, and we've tried everything. And she was like, it doesn't always work that way for someone, for everyone. Yeah, and it's not an indication of how good you're going to be after, or how well you're going to recover, or how good of a runner you were before. It's just this really weird point in time where like the rules don't apply.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And even like every pregnancy is different. Like I know for myself, my first pregnancy, I was able to run, I think it was early third trimester was the point at which I'm like, this doesn't feel good anymore. And my baby was on the smaller side, but I was just like, this is no, like everything's just starting to hurt. And I'm like, this isn't worth it. And then the second pregnancy, I think it was like the start of the second trimester. I'm like, okay, I'm done. Like this really doesn't feel good. But you know, it's funny. Like,
no.
yeah, it's just not worth it. But it's funny because I think before that, just identifying so strongly as a runner, and I'm just like, oh, walking, like, yeah, whatever, you know. I love walking now and hiking. Like, it's fantastic. And I'm just like, embraced it. Pregnancy was the thing. Like, first and second pregnancies, that was the turning point for me where I was like, walking is exercise. It 1,000% counts. It is amazing. I love it. It's relaxing. It can be really hard. It can be really easy. Like, it's fantastic. Like, yes.
Yeah. So, I have a whole new appreciation for walking and hiking now.
Right? So, you know, positives can come out of that, even though you're not like, cause I too had this whole image in my head, like I had to be that, cause I have friends who literally ran the morning that they gave birth. And I'm just like, I want to be that person. Nope. Wasn't in the cards for me, which is fine. I want to go back to, the performance anxiety piece. I'm thinking of a client of mine who just ran Boston and had the hardest time with anxiety and pressure and just thinking about things the week. And she really struggled to eat. And, you know, we talked a little about the nutrition stuff, but I'm curious about the mental side of things and what your experience has been just dealing with anxiety, whether it's generally or especially leading up to a race or in training, kind of how you deal with it, and what are some mental tips, tricks, strategies you've used in the past to kind of overcome some of these things and feel a bit more confident showing up?
Good question. Yeah, this has been my like maybe biggest challenge as a runner is anxiety and dealing with it. I'm at baseline a pretty anxious person, and so just in general life stuff, like tend to be on the anxious side about things. So then when it comes to races where it's a higher pressure environment and even like, oh, it's my job, like you get into that and like, oh, I need to make money for my family and like I can't fail. I think for me, having ABC goals has been like a real comfort going into races, and having like the A goal is this is on an A day, like everything's going well, the weather is great, all the things out of my control went well. This is what I hope to accomplish. The B goal has been like maybe 50-50, like some things don't go my way, some things do. What can I still control, and like what goal can I hang on to? And then the C goal is like, if all else fails and I'm having the worst day ever, worst weather, whatever, miss the start somehow, like a nightmare of a thing, what can I still hold on to accomplish? And then it feels like I have these like anchors to kind of like ground the anxiety in. So then walking away from the race, I don't feel like it was a failure if I like learned something and maybe at least went for the seagull and like stayed engaged in the race. And then, yeah, it just kind of helps me feel like it takes the pressure off some of the pieces of the race and I can focus more. Working with a sports psych has been really helpful as well. And just therapy in general, like during pregnancy, I've been working with a pregnancy-specific therapist, and pre and post.
There was. I mean, I guess that makes sense. Of course,
yeah,
a therapist for everything. But yes, awesome.
Yeah, it's cool to have that specialization. So I haven't worked with the sports psych in 9 months because I haven't been doing that. But yeah, kind of like finding those people that specialize in that stuff has been really helpful. Medication sometimes too has been like in the toolbox for me since high school. It's not something I'm always on, but it is like a thing that's there if I need it. And in different periods of life have needed it.
Can I ask you a question about that? And this is a little bit of a selfish question. Yeah, I went on Lexapro actually. It was when my daughter turned 1 year old because I had really bad postpartum depression, anxiety, and I've always been an anxious person too. And I was really resistant to it. And then I was always in my mind, I'm like, oh, I'll just do this for a little bit, right? And then I got pregnant. Oh no, then I had a miscarriage. Then I got pregnant again. And I was like, oh, well, I may as well stay on it because this is going to happen again. So I may as well do that. Then the pandemic happened. I'm like, oh, I may as well stay on it because the pandemic. And then over like the last handful of years, I've like weaned off a little bit to like, I was like 7 milligrams and then 5 milligrams. And I've kind of just been like on 5 milligrams forever. I don't know what your experience, because you were mentioning it's not like you take it, not always. I'm just so curious about your experience of like going on it and off of it, because I'm pretty sure it's probably not doing much of anything right now, but it's almost like a security blanket. And then there's some days where I'm like, oh, I could probably go off. And there are other days where I'm just like totally out of control with my anxiety. And I'm like, I need to up my dose. It's just like a roller coaster. I don't know. I'm just so curious like what your experience has been like with medication.
I think, well, it's funny you mentioned the postpartum because I think I had prenatal depression, which I didn't know was a thing or that could happen. You hear about postpartum more, which is really nice. But no one ever says like, oh, it can happen before the baby's born too. And so I'm on Zoloft now because a lot of like the first few months I was like, this is just awful.
I mean, to be fair, it kind of is awful though. So let's just be honest.
Well, yeah, it took so long. Like it took until month 6 of pregnancy for everyone to be like, okay, you're past the point of like where you should be like saying this is awful still. So we think like this is a chemical imbalance, not just a normal pregnancy thing. But yeah, I think going on and off for me, I kind of imagine it like water wings. Like it just gives you like a little extra buoyancy when you need to keep your head above water, and like you just need a little help to kind of like smooth things out and work through it. And then the times I've gone off of it is when I felt like, okay, I feel really stable right now. I feel like I've worked through like what was going on and I'm ready to take the water wings off because I think I can swim on my own right now. And with SSRIs, they're kind of tricky. Like sometimes I get like the brain zap thing or tingly, which is weird. But I've also tried gabapentin, and that was nice because it's not an SSRI. So like coming off of it, you don't have to ramp down the dose and kind of like slowly come off, which is another option. But yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I know a lot of people are on, anti-anxiety, antidepressant meds, and it's not always talked about. I always try to be very open about my experiences. But even I, like, as I was saying, like, I was so resistant. Like, it took me reaching like rock bottom for me to finally be like, okay. And I think I even picked up the prescription and it was sitting in my house for like 3 months. And I'm like, I'm not going to take this. I don't need it. That's like, why? Like, what? Anyways, very cool. Is there anything about nutrition, either with, whether it's athletes with IBD, pregnant athletes, just endurance athletes in general, that you wish more people talked about? Speaking of things that we should talk more about, is there anything we haven't talked about or that's on your mind that you feel like needs some attention that you want to use this platform to talk about?
Oh, I would say maybe with IBD, a lot of people, when I said I have IBD, they're like, oh, I have IBS too. Same thing. It's not quite the same. But I wish people like knew that. It's unfortunate that the acronyms are so close to each other. Because it did feel like, especially when I was deciding like when and how to tell sponsors, like, I have this disease now, and like, I don't think it will impact training, I hope, and I'm going to try my best to not let it, but it could at some point. And I don't want them thinking it's like, oh, she has IBS, like, and she's letting that like ruin her race results, which IBS sucks too, so I get it. But so that, and then maybe a question for you or something I've been thinking about as I approach birth and then postpartum is nutrition during breastfeeding and training. And I wish there was more out there about that. And like, the needs of it. And I was even researching like postpartum vitamins, and the prenatals aren't quite the formulation that would be nice for postpartum and like what that looks like. And I'm going to ask OB, but I'm kind of expecting like a whatever, it's fine answer. And
Yeah.
that's not good enough when I'm trying to run. Like,
There definitely are dietitians and even sports dietitians who specialize in kind of pre and postnatal. So that's out there as a resource, number one. And I'm sure they have other like free resources too. Yeah, I mean, breastfeeding obviously has its own demands with, fluid needs, carb needs, overall energy needs, especially if you're like training and breastfeeding and wanting to keep your milk supply up. And, one of the things I did want to explore with you before we wrapped up was kind of looking into the future. But the thing is, when you're about to have a baby, it's like there are so many unknowns, and pregnancy itself is, it's incredible. A birth itself it's incredible. It's scary. It's hard. And you also just don't know what the hell's going to happen. Like, what kind of baby you're going to get? Like, what are going to be the challenges? What's going to be amazing? Like, what's not going to be? You're not going to sleep. That's a given. But, so it's almost, it's hard to kind of like, you can plan and you can think about general things like, for instance, my plan is to breastfeed, and I want to think about these things, and I want to go back into running and kind of return to running on this timeline. But like, who know, like, what kind of birth are you going to have? What's breastfeeding going to be like for you? Are you going to be able to breastfeed? Are you going to decide to do something? Like, there's so many things that unfortunately are out of our control when it comes to that postpartum period. So I think, like, much like with, running and what we were talking about, ABC goals, I feel like you almost need that same approach for birth, right? Whether it's your birthing plan, like you may have, and I'm sure at this point you have kind of an idea of what you want, but hey, there's times where like, you got to go for that emergency C-section or whatever, right? So yeah, I don't know. But that, yeah. And then with vitamins and all of that, I know some people do kind of prenatals or continue it, but kind of taking a more individualized approach. And it sounds like you have access to lots of blood work and that kind of thing and seeing what you need. So it sounds like you have a really good framework in place to kind of staying in touch with what you need for your body, right?
Hopefully, yeah. I'm hoping to find someone I can work with, like postpartum too, nutrition wise, to just make sure in that new context that training plus breastfeeding, because that's just something I've never like done before.
What are you hoping to do for training? Like, do you have kind of like a plan in place with your coach or your PT or?
In assuming, or if the birth goes well and it's a vaginal birth with not a lot of complications, looking at between 4 and 6 weeks, starting to assess a return to run, and would start with walk jog, and then just like ramp up from there depending on how the body responds. So kind of flexible with that. And then the pelvic floor PT I get to see at 2 weeks, which is nice. And we can start, doing just like reconnecting with the core and the pelvic floor and making sure that it isn't too traumatized from everything, and then going from there. So that's kind of the starting points. And then I don't really know how it will go. My ultimate goal is to race a marathon at the end of the year.
Oh, cool. Like a trail marathon?
No, road, to get my OTQ time. Nice. And then, it'd be my road marathon debut. So Amazing. That's like my big goal. Do
you have a race in mind?
I don't know. Maybe CIM, just timing wise, that seems like it works. And then it's in the US. Because I was like, well, I have to bring a baby now. So that probably would be a little easier. Give us some time. It's easy to get to California from Montana, so that like reduces some of our challenges perhaps in bringing a baby along. It'll be fun.
Awesome. Are you in touch with any other kind of professional mom athletes, or who have kind of recently gone through it? Or, I think about like Steph Bruce, or there are like so many. There are too many to even name, right? But are you? I know you kind of talked with people when you first found out you're pregnant, but have you been in touch now, kind of getting some support and tips?
Yeah, it's been so nice. There's like a Trail Moms group chat that I'm a part of, and a Road Moms group chat that I'm a part of all the pro runners. So it's fun to have like both, and
awesome.
The perspectives on both. And I was even asking the we got a bottle sanitizer, and I was like, have you guys ever used this to sanitize your soft flasks? Because
Oh my God.
that seems like such a good idea, because I could never get them
I
that
know.
clean, but I could
Yeah, I
just
know.
throw them in that thing and it should clean them.
Huh. I never even
So
thought, well, yeah, no, I guess again, I never thought to do it. I forget what we had. I think mine was really tiny. I don't know.
I'll try
My flasks,
it.
that's like my thorn in my side. I'm the worst at cleaning my flasks. And I'm notorious for just like going on a long run and then dumping in the sink because we have like an extra sink and they'll just like sit there for a week and just get disgusting. And then I'm just like one time I was like, I can't look somewhere and threw them all away. And I'm like, what did I just do? That's so much money. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Oh,
not great.
yeah. Or the little bamboo, like the grass thing that holds the
The
bottles up
lawn, the lawn
back.
thing. Yeah. We literally still have ours. My kids are 6 and 9. I have mine downstairs and that's how we dry our flasks.
Yes,
So
so that's such a great idea. So I'm gonna start doing that. So yeah, I'm already dual
perfect.
using these products. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. One last question. So you recently signed on with Solomon. I'm so curious, I mean, that's amazing. Congrats. But like just sponsorship generally. I think you said you don't have a nutrition sponsor right now, but yeah, I'm kind of curious how like when you're pregnant and you're kind of not sure what's going on. I guess you have this race. Like, what is that discussion like when it comes to pregnancy and you have your Crohn's disease and all these different things? Like, just maybe you can shed a little light on that.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was hard going into worlds I couldn't tell anyone really or didn't want to at that point. And so had to race and then deal with the aftermath without being able to explain right away like
Yeah.
why. The medical staff knew for the USATF team, but that was kind of it at the race. And my sponsors didn't know either. So being like, oh, I DNF'd, like just had a tough day, couldn't stop throwing up was kind of all I could say, which, yeah, felt a little demoralizing too. And just like, you, I take pride in like my work and I want to have an explanation and not being able to share for, I think we waited another month because we wanted to make sure we got through first trimester and pregnancy is viable and all that. So that was kind of hard. And then it was like, well, my contract is up at the end of the year. So I kind of need to say something because I don't want to also go into negotiations not saying anything and then at the end be like, by the way, I won't be racing until next September,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
maybe anyway. So I just decided like being upfront and transparent about it was the best
Mhm.
way to go into it. And honestly, with Solomon, it really didn't like have a huge impact on our negotiations. And they were just like, okay, um, cool, congrats. And
Love it.
yeah, we'll pay you like we would have normally had you not been pregnant. And yeah, we'll support you in that. So that was really cool to see. And I was very nervous that that was not how it was all going to go down. But they've been super supportive, and there's like no expectations this year on a race result. They just want me to get back and be healthy. So that's
Mhm.
nice too. I don't feel like I need to go injure myself to get a race in. And then they're making we're making a cool project on the whole journey too, which I'm
Oh,
excited
cool.
to share. Yeah.
Love it.
So that'll be really fun to kind of at the end to be able to look back and share all of that.
Awesome. I love that. And I totally forgot to mention your Wild Stride Paper Company. And I imagine you're often your entrepreneurial I can't say that word, entrepreneurial side. And I imagine like in all the different times where you haven't been able to run or do the other things, like have you been able to at least kind of like throw yourself into that side of your life?
Yeah. Yeah. And I started coaching, which is
Oh,
something
cool.
I didn't really, we have a coaching collective as part of Wild Strides.
Nice.
And yeah, I've loved it more than I even thought I would. And it's been such a fun way to like still be in the running sphere kind of, but like really invested in other people's journeys and helping them. And that's been cool. And then we are coming out with Mother's Day cards this May, which is something we've never done, but it felt really timely and like, oh, we want to
Yeah.
like, I'm due in May. It's Mother's Day. It'd be really cool to like show all these moms out there that we recognize them and they're doing cool stuff. So that's been kind of fun too, to come out with.
Amazing. What is your due date, by the way?
The 20th of May.
Oh,
So, yeah.
I mean, few days don't make, but days to come when it wants to.
I'm really hoping she takes like 39 weeks, but yeah.
Perfect. Give you a couple more weeks to kind of chill, do your thing.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to do some rapid fire questions. We'll wrap it up. What is your favorite post-race meal or snack?
Oh gosh, or snack. Pizza.
Pizza. What is your biggest cooking catastrophe, if you've ever had one?
Ooh, I don't know if I've had one since I was a kid. Probably when I was a kid. I made enough mistakes early on.
Yeah. What is the most exotic or interesting food you've ever tried?
Ooh, we had a lot of yak in China. That felt kind of exotic. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. You mentioned that you used to be gluten-free. I assume you now eat gluten?
I do. Yay.
So tell me about returning to eating bread and other yummy gluten things.
Oh, it was so nice. I had to go slow, and my doctor kind of managed the reintroduction. But that was a nice test that the Remicade, the biologic I'm on, was working. And oh my gosh, yeah, I missed bagels for like 6 years. So I eat bagels now. That's been wonderful. And donuts.
And donuts. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. What is your favorite beverage?
Lemon water.
What are your comfort foods?
Okay, this is a weird one. Iceberg lettuce with oil and vinegar and garlic, salt, and oregano is like my number one comfort food.
That is so bizarre. No chocolate. But this is the first. Where did it come
from? My grandma, we lived with my grandma when we were little, and she always used to give it to me and my sister, and we'd eat a whole head of lettuce. Like, it was so good, and we would just chow down, and she'd make us bowl after bowl after bowl. So now when I'm like, oh, I feel a little sad today or something, I want that for dinner, because it makes me just feel like safe and like I'm at grandma's house with my sister, and we think it tastes really good. So
I'm sure it's delicious. I mean, like, I just love how different foods can evoke like memories, or like a smell can like bring you back to a place in your life. And it's like, that's exactly what that's happening. That's amazing. What's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Cherry.
And last question, top 3 items of gear that are most essential to your active lifestyle. Maybe this is pregnancy edition. I don't know.
Yeah, pregnancy edition. My Shocks headphones. To listen to a podcast on all my walks. A pair of Solomon shoes, whether that's road or trail shoes, depends on where I'm walking that day. And then maybe the bump belt to hold the bump up. That has gotten more necessary the heavier she gets.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Grayson. Where can everyone find you, follow along your whole journey, work with you, all the good stuff?
Yeah, on Instagram at Grayson__Grayson. And then wildstridespaper.com is where our paper and our coaching collective live. And then Substack too, if you want to connect there.
Thank you. Well, wishing you the best of luck with your baby girl. And thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that is our show for today. If you are enjoying the podcast, again, I would really appreciate your support. You can share it with a friend or on social media. You can leave a 5-star rating and review. And of course, hit follow or subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And if you'd like to support my free content, you can check out my affiliate codes on the shop page of eatforendurance.com. You can visit my Patreon page. And of course, please support my sponsors of this episode, Good Ranchers and Tailwind. Thank you to both. Everything is linked to in the show notes. And finally, I always love hearing from you, whether it's feedback, topic requests, or just to say hi, or you want to comment on what you just listened to. I really would love to hear from you. I read and respond to every message I get, so you can email me at claire@eatforendurance.com. All right, thanks so much for listening. I will see you all next time.